Roll call for the City Commission.
Mayor Thompson?
Here.
Commissioner Acla?
Here.
Commissioner Mantla?
Here.
Commissioner Pontius?
Excused.
Commissioner Sluzinski?
Here. Roll call for the DDA.
Marcy Spore is absent. Derby Chase.
Here.
Erica Quinn is on vacation and excused. Jay Bostwick.
Here.
Kyle.
Here.
Linda Norlander.
Here.
Rob.
Here.
Trish Kidd had surgery yesterday. She's off for a week, so she's excused. Linda Howlett.
Here.
Mayor Thompson.
Here.
And Mike Williams.
Here. Next up, we have public comment. If anybody'd like to comment.
Can
Looks
you
like we-
just make sure your mics are on if you're talking, you know?
Okay.
Turn them off if you're not, but.
There being no public comment, we'll jump right into new business, the North Shore.
We're going to start with just a little overview of the North Shore process and how we got here. So just want to welcome
Does she
everybody.
need a mic at all?
You have a mic?
So I just wanted to welcome everybody and give you a very brief overview of the North Shore timelines and activities that have already occurred. Ron is going to run the slideshow up there so you can follow along if you want. This timeline does not include every single detail of the process. It's been, there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes, a lot of meetings that, I don't list everything. Ron has a little bit better detailed list of activities that if you're interested you can see, and even his list does not include everything that's gone on with this property. But we're gonna hit just the highlights, the big highlights. So if you have any questions as I'm going through this, please just feel free to jump in and ask questions. Some of us are really familiar with a lot of the steps that I'm going to go through as they have occurred. Many of you have been here throughout the whole process. Some of you played different roles at different times through this process. I think of Greg. We read a motion that you had made as when you were on the Planning Commission, and now you're sitting on the City Commission. So some of you have wore different hats, and Greg always comes with lots of hats too, so that's appropriate. And some of you may be just hearing it for the first time. So, I just wanted to create an outline that accommodates the varying degrees of where you're all at and not bore you with every single detail that we've gone through. So again, if you're unclear or want me to clarify something, just jump in throughout this presentation. So in 2015, the city began to look seriously at the undeveloped property in the North Shore as a potential area to expand and provide growth to our community. We initially looked at all of the vacant land in the North Shore area as a viable option to expand, and this was the project area that we were looking at. The funny thing about this property is that in nearly 3 decades ago, Peter Pollack did a vision of this same area property, and it's really interesting if you read through this study. They offered 3 different options for development in this area, and it runs very similar to what we looked at, what we're going to look at today. So it's interesting that this isn't the first time the city's been looking at developing this area, and it hopefully won't be the last as we continue to move forward through this process. So in 2016, the city sought and received a Sustainable Build Environment Initiative grant through MSU Extension. This grant required a match, which the DDA was able to provide us. The grant would assist the community in developing a vision for the North Shore area. Residents, stakeholders, and landowners were invited to participate in the community vision process through a variety of community meetings and engagement sessions. Landowners received a personal invitation to the public engagement meetings, and most importantly, they participated in private landholder meetings that were conducted. A vision was created that took into account the information that was secured through those forums and engagement sessions. Key factors that were addressed were high-density residential, which included a mix of single-family cottages and homes, duplexes, and apartments as they terraced up the hill. Mixed-use commercial opportunities like retail, office space, hotels, and a brew pub were encouraged between the established industrial activities and the proposed housing that was being proposed to the vision. And finally, what we call a 21st century employment opportunity, or what we deemed maker spaces, for job opportunities that we still don't know what they will be. We wanted to provide an area for those, and those buffered the industrial zones for us and are shown on that vision in pink. The vision included all uses developed in the North Shore. The visions included all uses developed in the North Shore area, an enjoyable view of the lake. It also allowed for public lakefront access to be preserved along the waterfront. The preserved waterfront area would include walking paths, bike paths, a boat launch, and other placemaking opportunities. A consultant was hired in 2018 to complete a market analysis of the property, which would enable us to market the property to developers. A series of small focus groups were conducted along with presentations to various boards. The market study utilized community surveys that were done with residents, stakeholders, developers, and surrounding communities. The consultant also completed a thorough demographic study of our area, utilizing census data and other demographic metrics. In December of 2018, the city began discussions with landowners to secure a price for the vacant property to market to developers. In early discussions with 5 different landowners, 4 were at the table, favorably discussing a joint effort to develop the North Shore property. At this time, it was decided, or shortly after that time, it was decided to move forward with Paul Capo, as he was the largest landowner at the time and was willing to work in a favorable way with the city. So a 2-year agreement was entered into with Mr. Capo. The purchase price for his 28 acres of land was set at $775,000. A $25,000 earnest money agreement was secured. The DDA, again, was gracious and contributed the earnest money to secure that agreement. One of the terms included getting clear title to the property, which involved, one of the items that involved to get clear title was Fox River, a neighboring landowner, giving up their first right of refusal on the property. In addition, we had to clean up a bunch of easements and other agreements that were on this property. Everything was cleared on December 4th, so the 2-year time clock started at that time that everything cleared. The same consultant who completed the market analysis for us was utilized to create a marketing tool, which we used for a request for qualifications. The request for qualification was outlined the project area, the vision of the community desired, and requested developers to propose plans to the city to develop the property. The RFQ was released at the same time that COVID shut the world down. No legitimate offers were received at that time. We decided to issue a second round for the RFQ in July of 2020. We lessened the requirements for following the vision. We encouraged a smaller scope of the plan to be considered, as that was advice that we had received from developers at that time. And we hope for some feedback. We did have a little more interest in this round, but still nothing solid was gained. In May of 2021, we were finally approached by a potential investor who had contacts with a potential developer. This developer said something that stuck with all of us in that meeting, and that was that we have a wonderful community, and if we want our community to stay the way it is, we should keep doing what we're doing. But if we want growth, if we want more, we should look to do something different, and he saw potential in our community. Residential development and economic development, he told us, go hand in hand. If we increase our residential development opportunities in the North Shore area, economic development will follow. He felt that Gladstone was ripe for development. He loved our location on the North Shore, the vision that we had, and the potential that Gladstone could offer. He encouraged us to secure the land as quickly as possible, and he thought, or he said he was at the table because of the potential investor who was also at the table. So in July of this year, we began to really seriously think about some of the things that that developer told us. And we secured an appraisal on the property through a Marquette-based company. The appraisal for the Paul Capo property with, what did I say, 28 acres? 28 acres came back at $1,119,000. So, where do we go from here? The right to purchase agreement that we have with Mr. Capo for that set price ends December 4th, 2021, this year. We have two basic paths that we could take. We could let the property go, lose the earnest money that the DDA provided, the $25,000 that is already provided to Paul Capo, and continue to be the great community that we are. The property may get purchased by someone else on the open market. It's currently zoned residential. I've talked with a local contractor who would love to purchase the property. I told him the price that we had secured, then didn't faze him one bit. And he said he'd love to build 6 homes on it and sell them for $1 million each. I've also heard that a neighboring industrial business would love to buy the property and has talked about buying the property, and his idea was to use it as a storage yard for his steel. The property is zoned R3 multifamily residential, and it does border industrial, so it could be used for either of those purposes, fairly easy. Or the other option is we could consider buying it and look to continue to invest in it towards our vision and work with some potential developers. The developer that we spoke with said regardless of who develops the property, you want to make sure that you secure the property and that you propose that vision. Because one of the things that when we were talking to him, he's looking at doing, I don't want to say a high-rise apartment building, but an apartment building with several stories. And he would, if he were buying the land without it being attached to the vision, he would build right on the lake, basically, and block everybody's view behind him, because that's the only way he could secure that vision to the lake, or that view to the lake. But if, say, the city owned it and the vision was in place, he would build further up the hill, because that makes sense that it would protect that private area, the public private area along the lake. So those are things that we have thought about. If we buy it, we'd have to move very quickly, as the deadline is fast approaching, at that secured price. Now, I know some of you, I know what some of you think we should do, as some of you have been very vocal from the beginning. These decisions have to be made by basically these two boards. The city commission, of course, would have the final say, and the city would ultimately have the full obligation to pay back any money that we borrow if we were to choose to purchase. We're hoping that tonight we can discuss this plan to move forward and make a plan that best supports the interests of the residents and the businesses of this community. And that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, I do have one more. Oh, you're not going to show it. I said I know how some of you think, and you were supposed to show my funny picture. I pulled a Darcy. It's not a baby with a beard, I promise. Well, it's sort of, it's a big guy. It's a big guy with a beard, but not a baby.
Are we ready?
Yep. Can you see what it says? That's Derby slamming his fist. Just buy it. So anyway, it's, just wanted to open it up. I think Derby, you said that, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? It's been a long time.
Yep, quite a few times.
Yeah, quite a few times. I don't disagree with you. But that's where we're at. Does anybody have any questions about the process, about how we got here, or need any additional information?
I think you should bring them up to date with the meeting we had a little bit ago, Joe, and what we had come up with at that meeting.
The option to buy it?
Yep.
Yeah. I think
Yes, so again, in the timeline, I didn't include every meeting at all because there's just
Yeah.
so many of them. But we did meet a subcommittee from the commission and a subcommittee from the DDA, the finance committee from the DDA, and the small committee that we've been working with, it was Joe and Brad actually, planning committee that we've been talking with them periodically throughout this, and just trying to get some feedbacks for what's the process, you know, what should we do? And that's, in that meeting, we decided to have this joint meeting to talk about the idea of moving forward with purchasing. I mean, the easy thing to do is just to say, well, let's let it go. Let's let it go to the market. The subcommittees that met didn't feel that that was the best option. They wanted to move forward with purchasing, so we have been continuing to gather information of interest rates and all that kind of stuff, so we can answer those questions if the full groups are thinking that, you know, buying is an option that we want to consider. So that's what we're here tonight for, is to, one, get everybody up to speed as to where we're at, answer any questions that folks have. There's some things that we're still supposed to keep private, like who the personal investor might be and who the potential developer might be. Those are still supposed to be on the down low. But we can answer them as best we can.
If we're ever gonna have a vision for, for this area, we can't just walk away from this piece of property. You know, it was a hard road just putting that trail along the lake. People wanted to just leave everything status quo and not have a vision and not do anything, but you can see what that did to this area. I mean, it really brought a lot of people into Gladstone.
It kickstarted the thing in
yeah.
Escanaba that's going on right now.
Yep, yeah, it did.
No question about it.
And
Get
this,
across the highway,
yep.
you can bring it around the point and around there.
Mhm.
Absolutely, I agree.
This is another opportunity where we could have control over this vision and not just have a high-rise built or a steel yard
Six homes.
or six homes.
You gotta have control over, not have negative development
Yeah.
by developer.
Yeah,
Well, I think
Buy it.
the committee we had, excuse me,
yeah.
came up with an idea
Mhm.
of the DDA buying the land.
Okay.
And we have already talked to finance people. We looked at our budget, and there's no doubt that when we do our budget next year, we can include the payment on it. That way, there's a couple other reasons that I won't mention, but the DDA buying it, also, if there's gonna be any heat over it, it'd be the DDA, we're used to it, so.
Oh, we're not?
No, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway,
But it is in the DDA district, so it does.
Right,
it
that
does-
makes sense, yeah,
Makes
that-
a lot
yeah.
of sense.
but,
yep.
so the committee we had, the DDA thought that the best thing to do would be for the DDA to buy the property. The only other thing, and I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think Jay does and everybody does, the only other thing I would like to see is that 6-acre parcel that the city owns. I would like to see that deeded over also, so we have one chunk of land. And I would like to see a committee of the DDA and the city commission to be involved in this and get it marketed and get some people in here. And we're gonna have to spend some money on it, and well, you know, it's gonna be tight, but I think we can. And I think we're gonna get enough interest there. But anyway, that was that group's plan, and Joe was there, and I think we agreed that we could do that. And
So the
that's what we
DDA
should-
would finance the entire payment?
Yep.
Okay.
So-
Is there any legal issue with the DDA? I
Owning
mean,
the land?
doing
No.
that? No, owning that? No, I know the DDA has bought, purchased,
Yeah.
and sold other properties.
So
there's no-
on this end, there's some question about what properties we're talking about. So if you look at the map that's up there, the top portion is the Paul Capo property, and that's about 28 acres. And then the lower portion, the 6-acre parcel down there is owned by the city currently. Yeah, yeah. So that's the two separate properties that Derby's talking about. Now, the price that is secured for the 775,000 is for Paul Capo's land only. That doesn't, the city's property, of course, is attached to it. Yeah. So Medallion Management. So on your map, there looks like there's 3 parcels, but the 2 are owned by Paul. Those would be the 2 that we're looking at. The third piece on the bottom is the city-owned piece. So just clearing that up. Sorry. I could hear conversation over here.
My only concern during all this stuff is that I don't want 6 homes built there.
Right.
We've gone through all this, no.
Well, 6 homes that are worth $1 million each are, you know, a great thing. Also, there is one home down there already. I don't know if it's $1 million home, but it's a large home. Janice, is it $1 million home? I would say at least $500,000. It's a big home.
Yeah, but
I think that's a long shot.
Yeah, and the trouble that the city has with that is that to run utilities for 6 homes is costly. And if we don't have high density residential, it's gonna cost an incredible amount of infrastructure money to get to 6 homes where you're not gonna have as
And
large
with multifamily
impact.
homes, you have the potential, much more potential for economic growth.
Right.
If you
Right.
have 100 people living down there instead of 15,
Indeed.
10,
It'd be a
12,
big difference.
And
big
it's-
difference.
It's the thing we really lack in this area.
all over.
is-
You know how many people I get coming to my place in Escanaba? I was just on the radio on Tuesday. 2 people in the radio station before they even knew what this was going on. They're like, "When the hell are you building some condos for me?"
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I agree.
they're ready. I had a call about the election, and then they said the next question was, if you build a condo, I'll sell my house tomorrow. Not that they're moving away; they just want to move down there and get out of their 3-bedroom home in town. But that opens up that home
yeah.
for a family to move into.
We would do it in a minute.
Right. So I mean, the
That was part of Place and Main's study, was that there's a high demand for
Yes.
condos in the $300,000 range.
You know, somebody read the study.
There's many retirees that wanna stay here.
exactly that's the people I'm talking about. Those are all the conversations I
I
have.
don't wanna shovel,
And
I don't
another
wanna.
thing that we're getting here too is a lot of people are finding out that they're working from home.
You'd have people move here from
They're coming
all
from
over the
big
place.
dollar areas,
Yep.
so they're all live here 'cause
I don't have to live in the city and drive 45 minutes through.
I still make big money.
Yep.
When I'm living in Gladstone.
And they would bring those jobs and money
And
here.
So we financed more people from out of this state than they ever have,
Just recently.
Yeah.
all in the past year and a half.
Yeah, that's what,
And they were all moving here?
yeah.
Yeah, or having like a vacation home here. but
Just
our
having a
goals
place
was
to get
like
out of
moving
where they're
over
at.
here, and some of them, I mean, the houses, oh my God, a house that's worth 150 grand, 300 grand.
Right.
Yeah,
Never even looked
I
at
saw a lot of, I've got 3 people that are Chicago-based money, that basically one of them was from here originally, and they knew that they could find someplace here under $100,000, and from that, it's their camp, and as soon as things go crazy town down there and everything's locked down to the north,
Yeah.
they can head to the wide open spaces, and away they went. And yeah, it started last year, and all winter long, and that, and just, while everything down there has been shut down, here was open, wide open spaces.
Well, real estate right now, I listed a house yesterday and sold it 4 hours and 52 minutes after we. after I-
And without my help this time even.
Yep.
I just talked yesterday to a lady who lives in California, or Colorado currently, and they bought a house in Gladstone with intentions to tear it down and build a new home. But she said the same thing. She's 60 years old. If COVID kicks up again, they're gonna move sooner than later. They just wanna get out of the crazy atmosphere that they're used to. So, and, you know, we saw our census data. Everybody knows, I'm sure everybody knows that, you know, our community has grown. We've seen it. I'm sure Janice has a bunch of stories too about property transfers occur quick. People are looking for places. We've had 7 new homes already this year, which is a record for us in the last 10 years. We have 2 more that are proposed before, it'll be probably early spring. They probably won't hit this year, but early spring already. So next year is looking positive also. It's good timing. The developer that we spoke with did say some things to us that, you know, that he looked at our community prior to coming. His words were ripe for an opportunity to develop. And he did say, whether it's him or another developer, he gave us some, because we kept asking, you know, you're the first developer we've talked to, so help us. How do we market ourselves? And he was giving us tips, and the first tip he gave us was, you need to own this land. You need to secure this land.
May I ask, does this something like that, because I mean,
There,
one of the things you would hear,
yeah.
you're finding help.
They did say,
Who's gonna be, we can have all this
Yeah.
potential built houses.
I would say they're
but as somebody
well
who's
connected.
Gone through the nightmares of
Yeah.
building homes to barns,
Yeah.
it's hard to come up with a person, so you need.
we didn't ask him that specific question, but he did, they are currently developing places in Wisconsin. And he did say they try to use as much local as they can get, you know, but they did seem like they were connected with a standard of people that they, and whether or not this development even occurs, we don't know. You know, he told us straight up, I'm sitting at this table because of the investor that's sitting here with us. So it wasn't because of the city, it was because of the investor with the money and the location being within the city. And so, we're trying to maintain that atmosphere, that we have somebody who does want to invest in us locally, that we feel has some strong potential to help us. And we want to provide the groundwork or the space for them to do it.
Renee, you had mentioned that if the city owns it, the DDA, the city owns it, we'd have some control over the vision.
Mhm.
That someone would go in there.
That's
So-
the name of the game.
So if somebody comes in and says, I wanna buy, 3 acres and I wanna build, 3 homes, can we say no?
If the city owns it, yes.
Okay.
If the city does not own it,
Yeah.
Okay.
the city can't legally stop
If we let
that.
it go, anybody can build anything they want.
Right.
And control is a bad word. I always get spanked when I say
We can
control.
guide, the development.
We can direct,
Yeah.
we can
Yeah,
direct
okay.
and,
I just wanted to know what type
I
of-
like the word control. I mean, it
Yeah.
just
I
makes
like the word control too.
You want your community to grow in a planned
In a planned manner.
Yeah, that's really.
organized development.
Yeah.
Yeah, organized.
Because we want to spur more than just development down there. We'll spur development on this main street,
Yep.
other areas in town if we do this right.
The more people you get down there, the more your main street is gonna develop.
They're gonna go
Absolutely.
from down there to
We're gonna
Main
go that
Street,
way.
down to
Yeah, I
the
mean, it's,
ball fields and the parks and the harbor. It'll just be tie everything
Yeah,
together.
if you have a vision, I mean,
So,
that's the way it's gonna be.
one quick thing I wanted to point out for those of you who did read the market analysis, is that analysis showed us, because everybody talks about we need a hotel, we need a restaurant, we need a brew pub. Those are the things I hear about all the time. And our market analysis showed us that we can't support those things here in this community. Not saying that somebody couldn't do it, but the study shows that they ought not to be successful because there's just not the,
Retail centers, things like
it's
that.
just not,
would
it's just
go
not here yet. But if we change the face of how we look, and that study was done based on how we currently look, not how we could look. So what we're thinking is that if we owned the property, I don't see that our vision, that vision that we have, I don't know if you can pull the vision up, Ron, but that vision that we have, it's not gonna happen in one shot. It's not,
No.
I mean, if it did, it'd be awesome, but realistically, it's not happening with one person. And that's what the developer that we talked to said too. He said, hey, I'm interested in one thing and that's, starting this or triggering it.
And the other thing he said was that the first person you get in, you're gonna have to really dangle the carrot.
You're gonna have to
You're
eat
gonna have to give
crow.
them some pretty big incentives for that first one to take the leap and make that,
Cause they're taking the
big
greatest
investment,
risk.
that multi-million-dollar
Right.
investment.
But the market's changed a lot since then too. The housing market is hot.
No, but
You know
he,
what I mean? So
but
that
he was,
carrot could probably be a little smaller.
well, this was just in July.
Okay.
So, but even with the hot housing market, if I come in and build, 70 units, what are you doing for me?
Yeah, well, you gotta do
You
social.
gotta do something. So we can't, just say, oh, well, we're looking at this from the first person to make a huge amount of,
But, excuse me,
income.
what you gotta realize too is, there are local people
Oh,
who
yeah,
can invest 5, 10,
right.
15 million.
Yep.
Okay, there are local people around here who can do that, who are entrepreneurs who,
Yep. And maybe they secure a piece of it to do a
that's
certain
right,
piece,
to
right?
go on it. But if you get control of it, we get it all in one big piece.
Yeah.
Now we have control of the whole thing, and, I'm saying it's, God, it's something we should really be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be tight for the DDA, but we know we can do it. Right?
Bean counter.
Okay.
We started to talk numbers a little bit in a other meeting. Eric suggested that we kind of hold off
Till
until
the budget, yeah.
the budget. However, if I just look at this year's budget, what we have today, we had $45,000 allocated for the North Shore, and we still have about 40 grand of that left. Plus, we have about 70 grand that is still unspent in the facade program for this year, and it's getting to be October, so we probably are, so in round numbers, $60,000 a year is probably what the payment's gonna be. So just, you know,
Doable.
year one, we certainly can do it, and then by some belt tightening and prioritizing, we can then move forward.
We can do it.
And the nice thing about,
Hey, Kyle?
the nice thing about the connection between the city and the DDA is that that's raw land. So anything that gets developed, the DDA is gonna profit from that,
Right.
and that contributes back to their fund balances and helps them
And
move forward.
everybody's gonna
And then the city
profit.
benefits from that
Exactly.
too, right?
The 15-year finance you're looking at? Yeah.
We've got, what, 2 banks that have said that they were interested in it. I mean, we've gone out already, you know.
Mhm.
We're hoping that you guys agreed with this, because we want to,
Oh, no.
we don't have a lot of time.
No, that discussion came up right away, Joe,
Yeah.
was when some of the other discussion, some of the other avenues kind of dissolved, right away, he's like, just buy it.
Would you guys
And we
be,
agreed, I mean, the people in that meeting all said, yeah,
would
that's,
you see any problem with including that 6 acres into that parcel?
I don't see why
I
not.
don't see any problem in that.
And one thing it's gonna do, it's also gonna give us more, 1.1 million plus 6 acres, that gives us, more equity. for
Well,
the
even
loan.
there, if somebody comes in and that, and you're like, and they don't want that much, you're like, well, you know what, you can get rid of this 6 acres here, and.
Well, they might not even want that much. The developer we talked about, he said he could do it on 3.
But see, if we own the land, we own all of it, and somebody comes up and
Yep.
says,
I just want
I
a
wanna
piece.
purchase this, you go to the bank, you give them the money, that brings down the loan.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And we're going,
Yeah,
going.
right.
That's all, that's the only way it's gonna get started, in
Yep.
my opinion. And I think everybody agrees with that, I hope.
The other benefit I see if starting on this piece of property, if something starts to be built, I can see where the property, like Bessie's property that runs along the lake,
Mhm.
and then the property, to that would be the east, the other side. I could see where those landowners would start to jump in and buy on also. We did have the majority of the people on board during the visioning process, and where we lost some of them was when it came to set a price for your property so we can market it. Some people set their price for the moon. I don't know how to say it, but
Ridiculously high.
it was high, and that was at a time when, it would still be high today, so it was really high then, and we just couldn't work with that. We couldn't waste our time and money on going out to try to market a piece of property that was just valued way higher than what we could even consider as reasonable. Paul's came in at, I think initially he came in at over $1 million, and we worked with him to get it down, into the 700 range, and which that was then, we felt reasonable enough for us to risk some time and money to keep pushing forward. So I do think some of those other entities might jump on board at some point. Would love to see them on board now, but, you have to move forward with what's reasonable and viable, and that's what we did.
Does the city own that triangular piece?
No, that's owned by Medallion Management, by that apartment complex that was there. They were the only landowner that bordered us that never talked to us. I reached out I don't know how many times. They just didn't say no, but they just didn't say anything. They were just silent. Yeah. And actually, that's fine, because that's kind of a perfect area for what they do.
No, yeah, I just.
Yeah. So that's why we didn't highlight that area too, but
Do we want a motion to do this?
I'm not sure what we need.
Are you jumping at the bit to do your presentation?
I don't have a
Oh, I
presentation.
thought you had someone call. Okay, never mind.
So the, what I'm hearing
got the city right here, don't we?
Yep, so DDA could make that motion, and then the city commission, who's here, you know,
Well, I would make that motion because we don't have a lot of time. And I would make a motion that the DDA would purchase this property in hopes that the city would add the 6 acres to it. And we go forward with this immediately.
Okay, I support it.
Okay.
100% agreement.
All right, any more discussion on that? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
to do a roll call on this big of a.
Okay.
You don't have to, but, ready.
Ron's got it.
Probably be a good
Okay.
idea.
Derby,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Kyle,
Yes.
Linda Norlander,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Linda Howlett,
Yes.
Mayor Thompson,
Yes.
Mike Williams.
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous.
So I didn't have to explain this to you guys. You jumped in before we got there, but one of the things in talking with Miller Canfield, the way that we approach purchasing this, and it's going to go to the city now for kind of same consideration, is the city would have to establish a municipal installment agreement, and the city would have to pass a resolution to do that. The other option we had was to bond for the money. If we bond, there's always that public referendum period, the 45
Right.
days.
We're gonna lose it, yeah.
And, you know, that's
Yeah,
another
that's-
route.
we can't- yeah.
Plus with bonding, there's additional fees and things. It's more work for all, for staff, yeah. Right. With the interest rates being as low as they are at the local banks, that Miller Canfield was like, yeah, you should probably just look at the bank for this amount of money that you're going
With
for.
the fees, with the bonding,
Right.
with the, even though it's a bit lower, you're probably coming out right the same.
One of the benefits of bonding is you can roll all of the costs of securing the money into the bond.
Right.
Where if we do a traditional loan through the bank and do this agreement, this resolution that he's talking about, all of those extra fees have to be paid out of pocket. You can't roll them into the loan, so you can only do the price of purchase. But
And that's per the resolution or
that's per the state law, yeah. So, but we anticipated, we estimated at about $5,000 for those, so I mean, it's not, that's not gonna be a hang-up, I wouldn't
So
think.
what does this language have to look like, this motion? Does it have to be very specific?
The lawyers, are Miller Canfield, Steve Mann will draft that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so,
we just need a motion to,
so today's motion, I would say that we would just be looking for the city to direct staff to proceed with securing that resolution so that we can entertain purchasing the
we need a
property.
motion to accept the DDA's request to purchase and direct the city to.
That would be,
I'll
I
make a
think that
motion
would be
that we,
ideal.
I'll make a motion that we accept the DDA's proposal to purchase the land and direct the city staff to develop the resolution and the municipal purchase agreement?
Support.
Installment
Installment
I just
agreement?
have one question.
Yep, there'd be
Being the-
discussion.
Probably the newest person here to hear all of this. You know, we set this meeting up to discuss, and we didn't have anything that said we're making a motion to do something. I just want to make sure that that's clear, because I don't want anybody coming and tapping us on the shoulder and saying, you said you were just going to discuss it. You didn't say anything about.
We set it up and, posted it within the requirements as a special joint meeting.
Okay.
And so you can make motions and take action. If it was set up as a workshop only, yes, that discussion would be just.
That's all I needed to hear.
So, yeah.
Not breaking any rules.
That is the case. You didn't
Nope.
have to make a motion, but you're
Yeah.
able to at the special meeting, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Good point.
So in addition to that, we're still in discussion, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Support.
That's what I was wondering.
Yep.
There's the
Okay.
support. In addition to that, you will still have at a regular city commission meeting, you will have that opportunity to review the document to proceed with the purchase. So this is not the final step. This is
No, but
They
in
would
the
still
meantime,
have another commission meeting where they would agree to the resolution, which then would agree to the resolution, which then would engage the money being
Right.
Yep.
committed.
but in the meantime,
No,
we
they're
can
working
take
on it.
steps to get going with
Right.
everything else.
Yep, that's what this meeting
Yeah,
would allow.
So they can,
Yeah.
and we don't lose the property.
Right, otherwise, we got 2 more meetings,
Yeah,
instead we
and,
can do it at the
you know,
next
a month,
meeting.
now we're gonna be
Right.
at 2, 3 days, and that ain't gonna work.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna want as much time as you possibly can,
Yep.
especially with the financial side. Cause the title companies are longer, 6, 7 weeks out.
We did that already.
If we're still in discussion?
Yep, still in discussion.
With that, in that same motion, could it be amended to also work in the transfer of that other 6 acres so the property is all
Yeah,
joined and under one title?
Do that.
I think that will come at the city commission meeting,
Okay.
cause I do have to talk with Steve on that and how that looks
Okay.
and worded. I'm just not quite sure how
Okay.
how that
That'd be up
works.
for you guys to push it.
Yeah, but that's fine, I just know if we could get that moving too.
Okay, well, you guys are gonna pass your motion, or?
Any other discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Purchase and then a quick claim deed,
Okay.
Right.
the way Steve said.
If we wanted to, transfer it to, so there's, well, and when we get to the resolution, we can go over that too,
So
but,
just like property transfer between any entities, it doesn't matter that it's between 2 municipal entities.
so there's 2 methods you could do. The city is obligated regardless of who owns it.
Right.
Period. So if the city chose to purchase it and then in turn deed it to the DDA, that's an option they have. I don't know if this property could go with it, or if it has to be a separate one. I'm just not sure on that. We'll find that out.
But that shouldn't take any.
No,
amount
I
of
wouldn't
time,
think
okay.
it would.
Okay,
Be done after.
Yes.
Very good.
Time sensitive.
okay, very good.
No, we don't wanna hold it up for that, but it'd be nice to do that.
Let's take a roll call vote.
I have a question. I know that some cities have a very specific process that they have to go through anytime that they dispose of any municipal property.
Yep. So
Gladstone.
the city has a sale of land policy.
Okay, so I can see going from the city to the DDA as being seamless. Does there then, what does the DDA have to do if at some point there is a portion of this that we wanna sell?
So it does have to come back to the commission for approval still, and that city policy would still kick in as soon as it hits their table.
Okay.
So basically, by deeding it to the DDA, you're creating an extra step for a developer to have to jump through.
Okay,
So it's not, in my opinion, from my desk, when we talk streamlining, it's not my favorite gig to do, but,
Right.
I'll do what we need to do.
Right.
And these 2 boards work pretty well together, so it's not
right.
that big of a hurdle, but it is an extra step.
Okay, so are there requirements for public hearings or anything like that for the city to dispose of property? or
Not
having to-
public hearings, but, there's development clauses, and there's different, ways, things that have to be met in order for city property to be distributed.
Okay, which could be a good thing because, in the sense that it gives more, and I'll use the C word, control, but it gives us more.
Control, right.
Control
And
over
that
what happens.
policy was developed because we had a city manager who was giving land away like crazy. So that's why it was created, so that all the land wasn't given away without any,
Control.
well, control, but with no kickback to, benefit to it. Because it's okay to give it away, but there should be a benefit to coming back to you
Right. And not just give it away.
to get rid of it,
Someone else might pay for it.
right?
More.
Or develop it in a way that is more beneficial to everybody, right? So anyway, I'm sorry, there's still a motion
Okay.
going there.
So we're at the roll call vote stage?
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Eckler?
Yes.
Commissioner Mansell?
Yes.
Commissioner Contis is absent. Commissioner Szynski?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
So next, now this opens us up then to talk to Steve openly, and, this also will trigger possibly the public to start talking and have some interest, so, if you do get any questions, you can refer them to City Hall. You know, Kim is very good at knowing what documents are, available to the public and which ones aren't. There's actually a process for that, so if people are questioning, I would just encourage you, especially until we get completely through this, to just direct them to the city to handle their requests formally and legally. Is that what you want?
Who are we gonna have spearhead this?
What's
To
that?
make sure it gets done,
What part gets done?
getting everything together and before our deadline? Are we gonna have Ron working with you on it, or?
Well, Ron's been with us through the whole thing, so, yeah, it will get done.
Okay, all right.
But really, all we're doing is buying the property so that we can develop it easier, and have control over it.
Right.
We're
Just
not
wanna make sure that
building
it
it
gets-
yet, we're
Yeah.
not selling it to
They want it
anybody.
done, trust me.
Yeah.
So it's just one step.
It's,
Turning it into a park.
Right.
right.
Buy that land.
Good one.
We saw
Although,
it, we saw-
although there may
We
be
heard-
some grant
we heard
money,
it
so some of
before,
it
too.
might be a park. As soon as we get hold of it.
Oh,
The only
God.
leash-free zone in Gladstone, where am I gonna go?
Yeah.
Back to the park, you're getting kicked back.
We're gonna buy you a leash, is what we're gonna do.
Walmart.
So anyway, if you have any questions, let us know. We'll continue to work on it. It will be on, I'm hoping, the next city commission agenda.
I have a question. We're gonna have to, Steve said he could turn this around in a couple days, which is great. Sometimes he says that and it doesn't happen, but I think we could turn it around in a week.
I'm,
We're gonna be at the point where we're gonna have to determine who do we borrow the money from. Is that gonna go through the DDA and the commission?
no, it would go just directly through the commission, because ultimately the city's responsible for paying it back. So,
Seeing how we have more than one bank involved, I think, interest rate has a lot to do with it.
mhm.
You know, we have two
Closing
community-
costs and all that,
Two community
yeah.
banks that, you know, I don't want any hurt feelings with either one.
We have 3, but one did not respond.
I don't.
One that's due a check shortly. I didn't say that out loud, did I? Darn it.
And it's recorded on tape.
Any other
I just think they should have
discussion before I close the meeting? Or keep talking if we want.
I had 3 things that I just wanted everybody to think about that I look at and think we should all try to strive towards is, I think we should, as soon as we get this, we should have a meeting and invite the big guys, the big girls, the people with money, developers in here, and, because we've met with a few of them, and I have a drawing in my office that one of them made that is, really funny. He pretty much came up with the same drawing that Michigan State kids had, and, he did it in about 15 seconds. But, he said that there's enough people around here, and there's enough money around here that we can do it.
Mhm. I think that's a good idea.
I suggest make sure we do everything legally, by the book, by the bylaws, by the rules. and
Absolutely.
regulations.
Oh,
You know, you should dot your i's and cross your t's because, there's
They'll
somebody
be
out there
waiting.
to
That's right.
Do it right, sure.
Yeah, and we, you know, and we do have to pay for some of that service, and you know, the DDA has been very supportive of that. And Eric has 2 more
Get that
things.
legal advice and keep that,
We need to acquire that little strip from Bessie's or have Bessie's buy in to the
Mhm.
project.
Yep, I think that's a great idea too.
mhm.
Is that Martin Complex?
That
Yeah.
waterfront access is such a key part of it. And, we've got control over a little chunk of the
That would be a,
But that piece is not big enough to build on.
It's big enough to add on.
Yeah, that's right, you cannot, it's not big enough to build on.
On that
How many
strip
feet is
along
it
there.
from
Yeah.
the?
Yeah, but I'm trying to visualize how much further down it goes where it's a
Yep.
little bit wider there. And just control of that waterfront area will help a lot of local buy-in in terms of preserving that access to water.
and I do,
Water there too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, did you have one more thing? Let's wrap up the meeting first. Let's let Eric
I
finish.
don't know if any of you ever go walking down there, but if you walk out onto the property from Delta / Railway Avenue, the first thing that hits you in the face is that 69 kVA electric line that cuts through that. And all that goes to is the emergency generator, which used to run a lot, but it hardly ever runs now. So we've been, Skip and I have had start talks with UP Power to rethink that line. You know, it's put in a terrible spot.
So that might be a piece of what we do for a developer to make that site
Yeah.
to the point where it's okay.
sure.
A good portion of this is in front of that, but there's, the higher portion is behind that, and they'll have nice Lakeview property with
Power lines.
power lines going through the middle of it.
Yeah, that's,
That's an expensive project, but we'll continue to keep that in mind as we go forward too.
It could be expensive, I think there's ways that could be.
Yeah, I mean, they always say, oh, it's expensive, but, yeah. I think once development happens there and people start calling them a lot,
Can't ask them how it does it.
right. This was way easier than I anticipated.
I can go ahead
Good
and
job,
close-
you guys.
I can close the meeting? I can close the meeting? You done it? Any more, Eric?
Nope, I just like
Okay.
to thank Renee, she put her heart and soul
Yep.
into this. She
Yep.
did a great
Yeah,
job.
great presentation, very good.
Thank you.
That was just on one of
The meeting's adjourned.
the city showing us.
Thanks, Jeff.
We gotta get out of here.
I know.
thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
You were the one that said buy it.
I'm telling you, you cannot go wrong on land.
You got that right. You got that right.
Especially if it appraises right now at 1.1, we're paying 775, and if we put that 6 acres in there with us, that's gonna give us another 500,000, so now it'll appraise at 1.6, which is gonna make our interest rate.
Power lines in the back.
I had a house over on the golf course in this town. I mean, it needed work. I bought it to fix it. I bought another one down on 16th Street. And,
Oh,
I had to sell one, 4 hours and 52 minutes
take that home, take a look at
at
it.
full price.
Mark up these somewhere. There's 3 options in there.
Just did it